For more than 20 years, Sweden has been this fascinating exception in the European Union. See, they're legally supposed to adopt the euro, but they just haven't. And now that long standoff might finally be coming to an end. So let's get into it. So here's the central puzzle, right? When Sweden joined the EU way back in 1995, using the euro was supposed to be part of the deal. But for decades, they've found a way to sidestep it. How on earth did they manage that? And, more importantly, why is this all coming to a head right now? Now, you might think of Denmark, which got a formal, official opt-out from the euro. But Sweden? Nope. Their situation is different. They are technically on the hook to join. But through a sort of clever, strategic foot-dragging, they've managed to keep their own currency, the krona, and keep their own powerful central bank in the driver's seat. To really understand this whole thing, we've got to go back in time, all the way back to a really critical moment in 2003. The government decided to put the question directly to the people. Do you want the euro? And boy, the answer they got was crystal clear. The result was a resounding nay. That's no in Swedish. I mean, look at that. 56% of people voted against it. That's not a squeaker. It was a firm, decisive statement that would shape Sweden's entire economic path for the next 2 decades. And you can imagine the debate leading up to that vote was fierce. On one side, you had people arguing to protect what's called monetary sovereignty. That's basically the power to control your own interest rates and your own economy. Plus, they wanted to protect the Riksbank, which, get this, is the oldest central bank in the world. On the other side, people saw a chance to get more influence in the EU and make things easier and cheaper for their big export companies. And for a long time, that no vote looked absolutely genius. You remember the 2008 financial crisis, right? While many countries using the euro were really struggling, Sweden's independent economy was thriving. The general feeling was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But things change. And recently, that confidence has really started to wobble. The whole economic picture has flipped, and the once mighty Swedish krona is suddenly looking pretty vulnerable. The first major warning sign was inflation. At its peak, it shot up to a whopping 12%. That's way higher than what their neighbors in the Eurozone were dealing with. And when that happens, it starts to hit you right in the wallet, eating away at your savings. And this chart really shows you how much the tables have turned. By 2023, while the EU as a whole was still growing a tiny bit, Sweden's economy actually shrank. They were officially in a recession. All those years of being the star pupil? Yeah, those were over. So what's at the heart of all this trouble? Well, a lot of it comes down to the currency's value. Think about it. Back in 2003, 1 euro could buy you about 9 krona. Today, it buys you almost 12. That is a massive 25% drop. And that's not just some abstract number on a screen. And this is where it gets real for everyday people. A weak krona means that anything imported from other countries costs more, which just pours fuel on that inflation fire. And if you're a Swede going on vacation, suddenly your money doesn't buy nearly as much. It's a direct hit to people's purchasing power. And so this has brought a whole new argument to the forefront, one that wasn't nearly as important back in 2003. Stability. The new thinking is maybe being part of a giant currency bloc like the euro could act as a shield, something to protect a smaller economy like Sweden's from all the crazy swings and shocks in the global markets. Okay, so with the conversation heating up again, what would it actually take for Sweden to join the euro? I mean, can they just decide to do it tomorrow? Well, not quite. There's a formal multi-year process you have to go through. First off, they would almost certainly have to hold another referendum to get the public's okay. Then they'd have to join something called the Exchange Rate Mechanism, or ERM2. Think of it like a 2-year waiting room where they have to prove their currency can stay stable against the euro. Only after clearing those hurdles could they make the final switch. But here is the biggest roadblock of all: the politics. There is just no consensus here. You've got one smaller party, the Liberals, who are all for it. But the largest opposition party, they basically say, nope, the issue is settled. And other parties in the government are really hesitant to reopen this old debate. So when you add it all up, the obstacles are still pretty huge. Public opinion, even though it's shifting a bit, still leans towards keeping the krona. The major political parties are dragging their feet, and let's be honest, calling for a new referendum is a massive political gamble for any leader. And yet, despite all those hurdles, here we are. For the first time in nearly 20 years, this is a serious, mainstream conversation again. So, what should we be watching for? Well, Sweden's finance minister has kicked off an official inquiry to reevaluate all the pros and cons, which is a big step. But the real decider here is going to be politics. The outcome of future elections will really determine if all this talk actually leads to any action. Which brings us right back to that big question. For 2 decades, Sweden has proudly and successfully charted its own course. But now, facing a struggling economy and a shaky currency, will the promise of stability from the euro finally become an offer that's just too good to refuse? Only time will tell.